So the benefits of a twin air-stepped deep V cutting bow hull are many, but it helps to know how to get the best out of it. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. First things first, make sure all your guests are comfortable, everyone's seated before you think about going fast. And do think about things like hats and loose items. We're a quick boat. If you've got the optional twin 300s, you're going to do over 50 knots. This boat can also come in the single 300. We got the twin 225s on today. So if you are going to be going super fast, let's put that safety strap on and be safe. So just get that secure to your body and make sure that's all sorted just there. Next thing, ensuring all your guests are seated, you want to start to think about how you are trimming the boat when you get up and moving. So let's just get up and moving right now. I've actually got it, the active trim off. When I talk about my trims, there's two settings. There's the trim tabs, which are operated by the lever just forward of the bow thruster, and the leg trim or engine trim, which is the engine up and down. So I'm doing the manual engine trim, and if you're new to boating, I suggest you just try the active trim, which will do this thinking for you. So with the engine fully trimmed down, I have the trim tabs in the retracted position. I'm just going to increase my speed and get the boat up on the plane. I just do a nice gentle movement, let the boat accelerate. I'm going straight through 20 knots there. My fuel consumption is 70 litres an hour, 25 knots, and I'm just going to get straight up to what I would consider a comfortable cruise on this boat. And that's at the 27 to 28 knot speed range. We're doing 3,900 RPM at that speed, and I've got a 66 litre fuel consumption. So when you think about that, you know, you're going to cover a lot of ground at 27 knots, and 60 litres for your day out. I can't think of much else you can do with $100 worth of fuel, so not bad. But you want to think about, once you're up and rolling, everybody's comfortable, how is the trim of the boat? These hulls do a lot of the trimming for you, so you don't have to think about the engine trim all that much. You might get a little bit of benefit from raising the motors just a degree or two when you are at speed, but you're going to get more benefit from using the trim tabs and adjusting the angle of attack sideways like this and the bow up and down like this. That is going to be relevant when we encounter wash or waves. So because we have a nice sharp edge cutting bow, it's best for us to expose that cutting action into the face of any wave that we encounter. Because this boat is very slippery with the air steps, it glides through the water quite confidently. Therefore, when you see some waves from a boat, or if you have weather conditions giving you some wind chop and you're going into it, what you want to do is just, whenever you can, point that bow into the waves. So I've got some boat wash just coming towards me now from a motorboat. I'm actually just going to head out there now, still maintaining that 27 knot speed. And now I'm head on to the waves. So I'm actually just going to straighten the boat up and I'm going to go through these waves. Tackle it head on. 3, 2, 1, choppity chop. And the boat does all the work for you. So that is what you want to do with a hull form like this. It's not about slowing down and then slowly making your way through the waves like you may be used to on boats with a fuller bow or a flared bow. That style of bow does require a slower motion through the waves because it's going to have a lot of deceleration effect when you hit that wave. It's also going to have a lot of lift. Whereas when you expose a cutting bow into the wave, there's a lot less lift action. It just slices through it. So you can maintain those higher speeds and just hit the wave at somewhere of the 27 knot range. Don't hit it at 50 knots. You'll just make your guests uncomfortable. So just going through a few more maneuvers. Just hugging the coast here. Now I'm going to start to increase my speed a little bit and we'll bring it up to what I would call a fast cruise. So you're going to burn a little bit more fuel at a fast cruise, which I'm now doing, and so that's at the 29 to 30 knot speed range. You'll see I've settled my body position down a little bit because the wind vortices start to lower a little bit when you hit that higher speed. So if you've got a hat on like me and it's not done up tight, you might risk blowing it off at 30 knots. My fuel consumption, it's actually not too bad. It's only at 74 litres, so not a huge increase. Excuse me, coughing. It's not a huge increase compared to what we were doing before, but our speed return is now a consistent 30 and actually hitting 30 and a half knots there with no trim on the trim tabs. And we'll just follow this coastline for a little while. So, think about it. You've had your fun. You've been to the cafe for the morning. You had a swim. Really nice location. But all the other boats started to arrive and the anchorage got a little bit full. But you've got another beach that nobody goes to, or it's shallow water and the big boats can't get in there. A Saxdor 320 means you can just get right into the shallow water, drop those terraces down again, and once again, you've got your own pleasurable location to enjoy. Excuse me. So let's hook it round another corner and let's try full speed this time. I'm going to do a hard turn, increasing power. I'm coughing because I've been flying in aeroplanes too much lately and the dry air's caught me, so you'll have to excuse me. All right. So now, you really want to get somewhere. You press for time, or there's a storm coming. Just increase the power. We got the 225s on this boat. Now's when you want to think about raising those raising the engine trim. Make sure you've got the engine, the trim tabs fully retracted. And I'm hitting an easy 41 knots right now. I reckon if I raise the engines a little bit more, I'm going to get more. So let's do that. Here we go. 42. 42 and a half, 147 litres consumption, 5,900, 6,000 revs, 43 knots. That is blisteringly fast for 225 horsepower. Amazing. So if you're really going to go somewhere, you can. Fuel flow, 147 litres an hour. All right, off to the next destination it is. Let's do this. So your exciting day has come to an end. It's time to make your way back to the marina. First things first, you've got to deploy the fenders. Quite easy on this boat because you have the fender hook. So it really is just hook straight into the slot and you're ready to rock and roll. But what I often do on a new boat or a boat that I'm not familiar with is I just get used to the turning circle and what is required in order to complete a maneuver. So practicing the transverse thrust right now is one engine forward and one engine reverse, and just see how the boat responds. And as you can see right now, this Saxdor 320 GTO spins on a dime. As long as you give it enough power, she's going to go where you point her. So add to that the bow thruster. I haven't even turned that on yet, but we have the option of adjusting the bow using the bow thruster. So with a 2-finger on, and then left is left and right is right. It's quite a torquey thruster. So you do actually have more than enough power to move the bow left or right. So with that in mind, let's go park it at the marina. Okay, so the day's over. We're just coming down the runway to the marina berth. Now that we know the amount of space that the boat requires to complete a turn, we can put that into practice live at the marina berth. So I've got my bow thruster on. I always make sure I do a test thrust before I do final approach on my berth, just to make sure you reset the timer. The bow thrusters will automatically turn themselves off after 5 minutes of inactivity. So you don't really want that to happen when you are touching up against your berth. And then you just walk it in one engine at a time, creep in nice and slowly, come in at the speed you are prepared to crash at, which should be very slow. I've got my berth just parallel with us now, and this is when I start the transverse thrust. Look around, get the engines moving, keep everything nice and slow and controlled. No need to rush this because we don't have any wind today. And keeping an eye out for the lines because this is Europe and they have ropes in the water everywhere. Okay, and here is where I could use my bow thruster. Look how powerful that is. Hopefully that came up on camera. So you really can just tickle things up. If you didn't have it perfectly aligned, that's where it is most useful. Now I can even use a technique which is called a side slip. So I can have the wheel over to port, and I can just do one click in forward and a bow thrust to starboard, and it actually moves the whole boat to the starboard side if you need it to do that. So many techniques you could utilize with twin engines and thrusters, but the control is awesome. And here we go. All I need to do is just go and touch it up against the fenders. And as I was saying before, it's a boat that you can manhandle. So here we are in med style. It's not heavy. You can just get an arm out, settle the boat, and then go and sort out all your lines. So if you were questioning to yourself, is this a boat that you can handle yourself? If you haven't driven a boat before, I would say employ a skipper to do some training first. But once you've done a bit of training, it's very forgiving. The design, the hull, and the layout of this boat, combined with the engines and the thruster, it's just going to make your life easy. Once again, that's all about giving you the time that you deserve. I hope that was useful.